The Esquimalt and Nanaimo Railroad is a right-of-way on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. These 180 miles of tracks are also known as the Island Rail Corridor. It goes from Victoria to Port Alberni and Courtenay via two branches. However, it has been temporarily suspended since 2011 due to poor infrastructure, but doesn't need to remain closed. The only way between any of these towns are expensive, privately owned coach buses or slow local BC Transit buses. Perhaps it is time for there to be a full-size train on Vancouver Island. The Island Rail Corridor started in downtown Victoria and crossed the Victoria Harbour using the Johnson Street Bridge. Mile 4 is Esquimalt, the marine base for Victoria, and 8 miles into the route is Langford, the largest suburb of Victoria. Between mile 14 and 26 is the Malahat, a mountain range that acts as a bottleneck for everyone going north on Vancouver Island. This is also the most lacking transit connection, served by a rush-hour bus or a small ferry with two board bus connections. After the town of Shawnigan Lake at mile 28, the tracks run into Duncan, the fourth largest city on the island, at mile 40. After Duncan, the right-of-way goes through smaller towns. Medium-sized towns are at Chemainus at mile 51 and Ladysmith at mile 59. The train then pulls into Nanaimo, the second most populated city on the island. This is also where freight trains currently operate on a small branch line through Nanaimo and into a naval yard. The Island Rail Corridor then continues through rural village into Parkville at mile 93. At Parksville, the corridor splits into two branches, one traveling to Campbell River for 80 miles and the other travels to Port Alberni for 40 miles. The Island Rail Corridor was built in 1884 by the Esquimalt and Nanaimo Railway. This was built as a colonization effort by the newly formed province of British Columbia. The Esquimalt and Nanaimo Railway, more commonly known as the ENN, used the Island Rail Corridor for freight only. In 1905, the ENN was operated by Canadian Pacific with both passenger and freight trains. The passenger service was known as the Malahat, named after the mountains between Victoria and Duncan. The entire line was temporarily taken out of service in 2011. It had been eroding for many years at that point. The railroad track still exists, with a bike path from Victoria to Langford. Many yards and some freight services still exist, but it's not many. The Johnson Street Bridge was renovated after the closure of the ENN, removing potential rail access to downtown Victoria. Today, the track still stands strong, with most of the infrastructure still up to this day. Many bridges and tunnels, especially in the Malahat, have eroded, making it so running a train would be very dangerous. In Nanaimo, a small branch line still runs freight, but we are focused on passenger services. Freight traffic within Vancouver Island is minimal, instead being unloaded in Vancouver from cargo ships. Potential rail service should only operate between Nanaimo and Victoria. This would save massive amounts of money while serving most of the passengers. However, it should continue to Departure Bay for the services to Vancouver via BC ferries. North of Nanaimo, there are also many First Nations tribes that do not want a train going through their land. Trains would likely not be able to cross the Johnson Street Bridge into downtown Victoria. Trains could end at Victoria West Station, and passengers get to take bus 14 or 15, which each run every 15 minutes, or walk. Without serious investment, a new bridge would be impossible. Due to the single-track nature of this line, sidings for passing would be implemented at Langford, Malahat, Duncan, and Ladysmith. Smaller towns between Nanaimo and Duncan should be served by request only, with stations for the back door only. This logic could be applied for towns in the Malahat as well. When choosing rolling stock, we would likely want a diesel multiple unit or railcar, preferably one that could be purchased new. The Stadler Flirt is a good candidate because it can have increased acceleration, take curves tighter than a locomotive haul train, and we have no other DMU candidates. This service could be run by Via Rail, but considering poor management decisions by Via, BC Transit would be preferred for operating this route. Previous Bud rail cars were able to travel from Victoria to Nanaimo in 2.5 hours. This could likely be improved to 2 hours with straightening and better train technology. I would hope for trains to run every hour to connect the island well. The Island Rail Corridor would provide a valuable connection for the entirety of Vancouver Island. It allows easy access for people wishing to cross the tight bottleneck of the Malahat. Small towns have easier access to Victoria and Vancouver. Passengers from Vancouver to Victoria could avoid the congested ferries between Tawasin and Swartz Bays and instead travel between Horseshoe and Departure Bays between Vancouver and Nanaimo, and then transfer to the train.
Donate to the Island Corridor Foundation. This is a threat.